Use MIDI gear that makes sense. I'm going to show you how I pick and choose my MIDI gear and how it works best for me. So I'm going to start right now. If you look on my screen, you'll see I'm in complete control. So what I did was I took advantage of the big deal they had at Native Instruments. I bought the Complete Control 13, if I'm correct. I bought 13. It was a great upgrade. It was definitely worth it for me, the amount of sounds that I got. And I'm going to show you something else that I did. I went on Guitar Center used gear, which I utilize all the time, to get myself a deal on something to make it better. Now, I was in Oklahoma City, and I decided when I was in the Oklahoma City Guitar Center that, hey, let me see if I could grab something while I'm here. When I went in here, they had a Complete Control A25, the small keyboard. No big deal. They had it for like $45, $50. Now, I know it's older, and it's not like the newer ones they have now, but just think, for the software, I may have paid a little over $300 for the software, and spending $50 for a piece of gear that can increase my experience was not a bad deal. When you're using Complete Control and you have the controller, instead of me having to use my mouse, the screen right here, you get to choose what it is you want. And I can you can see that it's scrolling through. If you look on the screen, the different kind of instruments that you may want to find. So if I go to instruments, I'm going to pick analog, and I'm going to go right there. And boom. I choose an analog type instrument, and it has a massive instrument. Now, of course, you choose that through how it says characters. It got analog, acoustic. But the thing is, that's less mouse clicks for me when I get to use my Complete Control over here instead of using my right hand for the mouse, okay? And it's easy. It's more tactile. If you're somebody like me that has been doing production for a very long time, that's used to stuff like the Triton, a lot of the earlier MPCs, stuff like that, like the Motif, you like not always having to look up at the big screen for everything. So for $50, I'm able to get this used because, again, my channel is about, hey, I'm not trying to break the bank, trying to get this music production done, okay? So I'm going to start all over again. Usually I'll go back to all instruments. Going to start again back on here. So I'll go back to all instruments. And also, it has these nice previews. If you turn the knob, you see how if you look on my screen, it has the different kind of sounds on there. So all of those are analog instruments that they're previewing. So once you pick something, you click on it with your knob, and boom. It was a battery 4 kit that I can choose to use. Very easy, makes my process go a lot faster. When I'm using this thing, I don't have to stay in the screen. If you see in my studio, within my studio, I have 3 screens, actually. I have a big one that's up top above me. There's one smaller, my main screen. This one is pretty good for color, especially when I'm doing video editing. And I have a big one, a decent-sized one that's over here that's right in front of my keyboard, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So anyway, that's a great way that I like to use my MIDI gear, and why I intentionally, since I knew I had Native Instruments and I had Complete, that I was going to get the Complete Control or an A25 by Complete to use to do my MIDI stuff. It makes it a lot faster, a faster process. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and remove that tracking instrument, start it all over again, and show you again how I might use that. So I'm going to drag complete control over. It's going to load up. Once it loads up, process starts all over again. I'm going to hit browser on the 825. When I look at the screen, it's showing me instruments, like all instruments. I click on it, it'll say all. I get to choose what type of instruments, like right now. So I'm going to go to drums. I'm going to click on drums. I'm going to click on all drums, all characters, and again, get to hear different kind of drums, just going through them. It is pretty convenient doing this. Very convenient. Not that I would use particularly the ones I'm hearing, especially like this, but it's still good to just go through. And this is my left hand. I'm doing this with my left hand. I'm going through. See? My left hand, I'm going through, as you see it, through all the different instruments. So I'm going to just go ahead and choose that one, let it load up, and that happened to be Urban Beats loops. And you can hear the loops on there. Boom. Always a good idea if you can afford to, especially if you know you use something like a software all the time, get the proprietary hardware that goes with it. The same thing with the PreSonus Atom. I have the PreSonus Atom, which has been really good. If you could kind of see this thing, I use this a lot. It's kind of made me more apt to use the PreSonus drum machine, because I know that everything is already set, already programmed. I don't have to go through a bunch of mess. Everything is set for me. I don't have to do a bunch of editing. Now, if you want to do a bunch of editing, you can, but if you're trying to get to making music and getting your production done, it's always nice, and most of the time you're going to use this a lot. Use whatever the proprietary hardware. Same thing with my Arturia. I have an Arturia analog lab. I have lab 4 and I have lab 5, which I love for the sounds. Over here, I have my Arturia Key Lab Essentials. And most of the times when I want to use my analog lab, if you ever look at the Arturia Key Lab Essentials, that you have different modes. You can choose the analog lab mode, which I'm going to choose right now. Midi, so I'm going to go ahead and map, choose the analog lab. It starts with that sound. That's the first sound on there. I will manually, I'll go home and I'm going to choose an organ. Tone wheel organ, manually going to choose it. Now watch what I'm able to do over here. So, of course, because I'm able to use that wheel, very easy. And let's say I want to switch the instrument a little bit. All I have to do is go to next over here. And it went to Soul Sacrifice. You can see it went to the Soul Sacrifice. Boom. One key. Went to another sound. Very easy. And a lot of times with editing too, because the knobs are already set up too. So I can see how I was able to do that. Why? Because I have the Arturia hardware and software. It will be worth it, especially if you use something a lot. I use the analog lab a lot. That's why it's worth it for me to have this. It's worth it for me to have Complete since I use Native Instruments Complete. And also, it's worth it to have the Atom since I have Personas as my DAW. Just something for you to think about. Again, look. Wow, look how quickly I'm able to go do different organ sounds. I'm able to do it. It's not a big deal. And it's just as easy as flick of the finger, moving the finger just like that. Instead of having to do a bunch of click-throughs with my mouse. Easy as that. So if I was you, I would look for deals on Guitar Center used gear, maybe look in a pawn shop. I'd be careful of that. Sometimes that can go bad. But definitely look, see if you can find yourself a deal. It is definitely worth it. Buy it new. If you can, buy it new. But if you know you use a certain kind of software, try to get the hardware that's already programmed to go with it. Make sure also to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure that you leave me some comments so that way I can tell what you like, what you don't like, what you find useful. Peace.